Welcome back to the absolute most professional StarCraft 2 and the most relatable player in all of the game. In this grand final, starting off strong, we have the People's Terran. It is Cure, with a Proxy 2 Rex just outside the front lawn of, well, I can't really blame him for starting off with one of the most intense cheeses against this player, in my opinion, and popular opinion. The greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. The finisher. It is Serral. $40,000 on the line in this World Team League of Masters Coliseum gladiatorial arena. Over the last couple weeks, players from across the world have battled it out, and your top two in front of you right now. A little closer than you might have expected to start a best of 7 Terran versus Zerg. And I'm not even going to sugarcoat it because we're starting off so strongly. If you enjoyed, be awesome if you could like and subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,128 likes. And I'll cast another series. Oh my god, Serral lost a drone. And you know, with so many games like this, I'll probably do it anyways. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you've had a good... What is happening? What am I watching? Serral lost 2 drones. Alright, so it's almost certain you're having a good day so far. At least better than Serral, because I've never seen this happen. 3. This is madness. I don't... No, this doesn't happen. I'm sorry. Back it up. Alright, put the real replay on. Serral loses 3 drones to start things off. That's absolutely ridiculous. And Cure still has those Reapers alive. And it wasn't like he couldn't have saved them. Just an entirely, completely out of character. Like, check him for a body double. I don't... That is not in the script. That is not supposed to happen. Cure on top of his micro, but that was more Serral dropping the ball there, I think, than anything else. And now Cure gonna keep up on it. The grenades beautifully splitting the Queen. Brenda, get back! And might actually kill more because he's continuing the Reaper production. Cure, with perfect Reaper micro so far, has lost none of them. Maximized the damage. Continues to eat into the Queen HP. Kill the Zerglings as they pop out. Zergling speed not even done. And Serral's down to 17 drones. Has a bunch more lings on the way. Zergling speed 5 seconds out, but Cure is off at the creep. And he's out of the woods when it comes to the Zerglings being able to easily surround. And it appears he's timed out the metabolic boost as well as he sends the Reapers back home seconds before. He has a very good idea of the general timing. And sending a Barracks Lord in. A Barracks Overlord to spot anything else coming out. Serral even built a spine crawler against this. I want to point that out in the main. And now he's moving it down. But he built a spine crawler and he still lost 3. I mean, the spine wasn't done, but that's a big investment. Another drone on top of it. So, Serral off to an uncharacteristic, a surprising, and a bit of a concerning start. In game 1, and Cure brings us in the corner of his base, a man of the people, the People's Terran, builds a fusion core. And it looks like game 1 will be Proxy Reaper into Battle Cruiser. Taking inspiration from the Diamond League, from Bronze League heroes, the People's Terran is looking to play this series the right way. Yeah, the Barracks will scout this. And, I mean, it's a bit of a risk. The Overlord was taken out. He did not see the fusion core. I don't know if it was even started by the time the Overlord was wandering in, but the Barracks Lord, on the other hand, actually moves faster than an LV. Fun fact. Obviously unupgraded there, but... And the Reapers, oh my. That is the first unit lost there. Yeah, he just... Wow, he's just coming in, killing off the spine crawler. He has vision. There's not that much behind it. The Barracks is providing vision. Kills 2 queens. The Zerglings, though, get the surround. They were out of the map. Took their sweet time about it. But Serral will be able to surround. And eventually kill the Reaper Hellion. So Cure gets cleared up. But he just killed 2 queens. The anti-air on the map There's only 2 queens. He's building 2 more. 4 queens are not enough to stop one of these flying laser bathtubs. Like, half a dozen, maybe. He's continuing to add them. I wonder if he's suspicious. Does Kier have anything at home? He's got 3 Hellions here. That depends. Oh my god. Well, no, he bars the way. He makes him think he might have a chance. But so far, Kier, I don't even think necessarily getting his units surrounded was a huge deal, as he got the queens. Even if it means he ended up losing those units, getting the queens is the most important part. There's nothing in the main. The battlecruiser jumps. The spore crawlers are not done. He starts a second one, but the strafing will begin. The drone's already targeted, losing a couple. Serral doesn't really have drones to lose. He's at 41 against 41 of his counterpart in the worker count. The queen's on the run, not able to even throw some damage in with those knitting needles there. A spore crawler won't necessarily save you from a battlecruiser, but he'll probably avoid it just to make things easier. There's not enough energy for transfuse. The spore's on the move, targeting the queen with the most energy. Gets away just in time. Oh. Right now, Kier in a commanding position in game 1. As the battle cruiser seems to be more than enough to keep Serral at bay. Now, he's not dead. He doesn't have a lair, though, I don't believe. So it's still just going to be queens and spores. As the extent of the anti-air capabilities, Hellions coming in again. Don't quite find a line on the drones. Zergling's getting a good surround. Queens able to flank around, gets a few more drones. A bit miss micro here. You're slipping a bit. And 9 more on the way for Serral. I gotta say, if Serral pulls this one back, it does not bode well for the length of this series. Because even though the supplies are looking pretty good for him, I can't stress how much of a deficit this is. He doesn't have a lair. His drone count is nothing particularly impressive, even if he's adding more and more. The queens are constantly chasing down battle cruisers, and maybe get a few injects in there. But he's already lost so much. Kier has taken his sweet time in getting his infrastructure up back at home. He's gone battle cruiser into bio. Not too far of a reach, even though it seems like a big transition. Battle cruiser doesn't necessarily mean mech at all. 5. And he's going... wow. He's rushing... He's sprinting towards 8 barracks. I believe that's going to be 8 racks. The Octo racks. Battle cruisers still working on the creep. Couple queens have energy for transfuse, so Serral has survived the initial onslaught. Actually gets a kill before the queens can land a transfuse there. But Serral will be able to push the creep back and the battle cruisers towards Kier's base. Finally finds some opportunity to go. He had to rebuild the spawning pool, or just decided to build it where it's not so vulnerable. I do like that. The amount of times, it's rare when a spawning pool gets killed, but there's no need for it to be devastating. Battle cruisers being repaired. Kier has all this production online. The supplies might be even right now, but his production is about to kick in hard. I wouldn't be surprised if Kier's up 30 supply in a minute, as he's going to be able to produce out of all of these barracks. He's got 64 SCVs. Mules dropped 1-1 on the way. There's nothing else to do but produce. And that is why, even though the supplies look kind of even, I'm just kind of waiting for this opportunity here. Kier. 133. Strafing the queens. Gets them. 1. Lives to tell the tale. But how much longer? And at what cost? Hellbats joining in. Sporecrawler trying to burrow. Caught in the midst of everything. Battle cruisers force a cancel on the 4th hatchery. Well, I guess that's a 4th hatchery. Not the only 4th hatchery, but a 4th hatchery. Kier at 25 supply lead. Hive for Serral. Well, that is certainly he needs to take big risk. When you get hit with a battle cruiser, you don't even have lair on the way. You're pretty much resigned to playing defensive until you can get some late game tech. If you do have a lair, maybe you can go for a spire. Infestors are also an option, but they're not easy to get when the battle cruisers are already getting to work. The battlecruiser's still going. We're at 10 kills, 9 kills, but the amount of attention, the amount of space they've created for the rest of the army cannot be understated. Another queen down. 7 queens here in game 1. And here comes the Terran army. Banelings rolling in, but the Hellbats have already softened things up. The Bio army microing back. Banelings do finally connect, but Cure with a command and conquer performance in game 1. Reapers into battle cruisers. Well, not what I expected to see. Serral truly not looking on point there. While Cure executed well, I think... I don't know what happened. That is not supposed to happen. 3 drones dead to just a few proxied Reapers? That's not supposed to happen to your average Grandmaster, let alone the Grandmaster. So, hopefully Serral can warm up a bit. And we can see a bit more competition. But the People's Terran grabs 1. And is off to an early lead. I'm sure he'll take it. Now, that kind of thing not going to be replicated easily. But honestly, there was not even a glimmer of the Serral we're used to seeing. The Serral who makes us wonder how we should nerf Zerg, because you can't just nerf everything. Terran's over there like, I'm listening. But, of course, I wasn't sure if the battlecruiser was going to be too far of a reach. Because going from Proxy Reaper with essentially no units besides a few Hellions all the way into battlecruiser seems like a bit of a tech leap. But it definitely took control of the situation. I think what Cure did is abuse the fact that Serral is so predictable. Serral is not dark. One of his greatest strengths, but in this case, possibly his only weakness. As very rarely, especially unprovoked, or especially as a reaction, will Serral do some sort of all-in, some sort of super cheese. He relies on his unrivaled mechanics. It's honestly kind of a boring strength he has, which is just being a little bit better at everything. A little bit better at multitasking, a little bit more efficient, gets those drones out a little quicker, creep spread, minimizes the amount of wasted time. So a lot of players will build like 17 creep tumors in the same spot if they have the energy. But Serral will spread it out. It's a weirdly specific thing, and I'm sure I have nothing to back it up, but we'll see. Cure, on the other hand, is also... that's why this sort of matchup is so interesting. Cure is also probably the most mechanically oriented. Not mech. That's different. That's Gumio. But most reliant on mechanics. As the difference here is, though, Cure is not known for his micro. But instead, his success despite the lack of it. As for every time Maru or Beyond targets down half a dozen Banes, Cure loses all his Marines to just 3 of them. For every time Maru or Beyond gets a Reaper nerfed or finds out a new late-game strategy, Cure runs someone over with Marine Tank. That's not to say he can't play the late game, or he's not capable of that micro. We saw it last game, the Reaper micro top-notch, but it is more about quantity being a quality all its own. And that's why I ask you for one more like every day, because you are a viewer of quality. Thank you for watching. First Zerglings in. Time successfully filled. And it'll be Serral who draws first blood. This time around. Gets 2 SCVs and delays a supply depot. A small victory, but a victory. Alright, Marauder. Marauder? He intentionally put that tech... Is he doing a Hellbat timing? That is the only thing I can think of, though we do see an armory on the way. It's very odd to make Marauders at this stage, unless he suspects a Roach Worm. I don't think that's it. as Marauders, a bit more costly than Marines, and honestly, a lot of players won't even start building them until the later game, unless they see a Roach composition. Oh, Cloak Banshee on the way. Did he finish the Marauder? He did not. Ah, it might have been a safety Marauder. He kept the tech lab going right up until he noticed it wasn't Roaches, right up until his Viking finished. And then he flipped the tech lab over to the starport for Cloak Banshee. So it was just kind of Kira making use of a little bit of downtime there. And potentially remaining a little safer. One of those things that is not like the most exciting thing in the world, but the little mind games, the little details like that are why Cure is one of the top 5 players in the world. And currently the 2nd highest ranked Terran. Now, Maru, of course, well, he had a run-in with Serral earlier, so we see who's here and who's not. Ooh. Double fact. Wait, no, it's mech. It's mech! Like, not a little. This is not Flex Terran. This is not Bio-Curious. It's mech. Straight up mech. Is it going to be Hell Clones or your more classical siege tank kind of Thor action? Double Armory makes me think of Hell Clones here. Hyper Shees as well. Cure. Breaking out the speed Banshees and the double Armory. Looking to keep Serral off balance. Yet again in game 2. Serral just building up. He's setting up to defend a Marine timing. God, Serral is so predictable, but also so tough to deal with. He's got the timing mapped out for if Cura was coming across the map with 16 Marine, like the Overlord. Serral has not seen the gases at the natural, not seen the additional factories, not seen the armory. He doesn't know, but what he doesn't know can definitely hurt him. It's not that Ling Bane is terrible against the Hell Clones. Far from it. It's not that it's incapable. It's just the timing's like Serral built all these Zerglings and Banelings. And he did it with no real threat. Well, there's a threat now, and it's these Hellbats, which is a bit of an awkward timing. Yeah, Cure shows up. Well, that could have gone better. Yeah, Cure. Like I said, not necessarily terrible. A pretty big misplay there out of Cure. Serral was prepared for that Marine timing, so he already had plenty of units out. Cure not factoring in that he hid information so well from Serral that he'd probably have plenty of units ready. And it's not the end of the world, by any means. Cure already has a third. He's going to have 70 SCVs in a moment. He's already got full 3-base saturation potential. Of course, Serral just scouted in with an Overseer. He's got Overlord speed on the way, getting +1 ranged attack. Starts a Roach one. Wouldn't be surprised to see an Infestation Pit momentarily as well, as we work our way up towards potentially Vipers or Infestors. You see, he hasn't done it yet, but I would not be surprised. The Banshee count, though. He has 4 Banshees. A pale comparison to battle cruisers, but definitely, aside from tactical jump, even more maneuverable. As he just kind of sharks his way around, the Queen's trying to chase him down. Gets one. There's the Infestation Pit. Gets a Spire as well, but the Hyper Shees. There aren't too many units in the game that can catch up with them. A scan, though, from Cure. Does not see the Infestation Pit timing, but he spots the Spire. No reason to stop moving out right now. Hellions and Cyclones on their way across, roasting through the handful of creep tumors at the front. Plenty of energy still on the Queens for whatever they might need it for. Remember, this is not the new proposed patch where we're going to rework the Cyclone for the 17th time this decade, but instead, we have Magfield Accelerator on the way. Which does give a base damage upgrade to the lock-on damage, which is quite helpful against Queens. Not such a big deal against Zerglings, which they already kill relatively quickly, as do Blue Flame Hellions. But Roaches are on the way. Pathogen Glands here. to give the infestors the ability to pop out with a fungal all ready to go. Spire and a hive, as well as burrow. Cure a bit timid on the edge of the creep. A bit intimidated by the sheer amount of units he saw from the watchtower there. But the cloak hyper she's coming again. Glide by, taking 4 of the drones with him, and he spots the infestation pit. So annoying to deal with here. But wait, there's more. And in towards the 4th base, the Hell Clones lock onto the hatchery and will easily knock it out. Hyper she's in the main. There is still a 4th base here for Serral, but he's being whittled down. Again, Cure takes the initiative. Again, Cure has the upper hand. And again, Serral on the ropes against the People's Terran. I'm loving Cure's playstyle here. I love that he's bringing these other things. Like, it's not unheard of. This isn't the first time we've seen it, but it's the first time we've seen it at this level. I haven't seen Serral dealing with this army composition. Well, I haven't seen it yet. Because right now, Cure is kind of running the table. But the infestors are out. This is not a common one. Because if you know it's coming or even suspect it, you can get the roaches out earlier. You have a better answer to the cloaked hyper she's. But precisely because, Serral, it didn't even enter into his mind this was a possibility, is why Cure's been able to get the jump on him here. But now the real danger begins. Neural Parasite on the way. A dark level of infestors is being built. He's going to have 13 of them momentarily as he works towards the Broodlords with the Greater Spire. So those burrowed infestors, he saw the infestation pit upgrading. I don't know if Cure knows about the burrow yet, but these infestors could certainly turn the tide here. And takes down the watchtower. The Rube Goldberg machine over there. 2-2 is on the way. Usually you're bio-timing, but here for Hell Clones, it'll work just fine. Scan on the infestors. Grabs Neural Parasite's one Cyclone. A bit annoying to deal with, but just takes it out. Excises it. And now that's a lot of infestors, but there's no ghosts. The major weakness of the Hell Clones here. Throws out a fungal. Fungal, a very real danger to the brunt of them, but 5 siege tanks in production. So, and hyper she's are still a threat as well. Thor's on the field. Neural Parasite is something that he will have to contend with. Neural Parasite to grab, well, at this point, Serral still has 13 infestors. There's a reason ghosts are such a ubiquitous part of the late game. And there's a reason why they're considered integral. And, well, we'll see if that reason is demonstrated. Trying to cover for the infestors, not working out. That is quite a siege push. Infestors easily targeted by siege tanks if they get a beat on them. And the Hyper she's not cloaking him, finds an opportunity. There's actually no detection here, but an Overseer flying over will rectify that. Another base taken down. Serral unable to get much more than a 4th here. The main base is starting to mine out. Cure comfortably on 4. The only concern being a lack of ghosts. But he does have... He's going on 3-3 mech. He may actually... He's going to have his mech upgrades done before Serral gets 3-3 Zerg. A lot of money in the bank as well, adding 2 more command centers. So Cure has quite an army here. Needs to keep up on those scans. The most major risk to this army is the army itself. Neural Parasite could easily turn the tide. But right now, Cure is rolling forward. He's got to win one good fight. Those infestors looking for an opportunity. Neural Parasite's a couple Cyclones, whatever he can get at this stage. Grabs them back, loses 2 infestors, counterattack. Serral can't afford to lose that 4th base. Zerglings into the 3rd. He burrows them. I don't know if Cure noticed that happen. Clever move there. Ravager's coming in. Blinding Cloud on top of the siege tanks. Grabs away. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thors are pounding through the army. And Serral's army. Yes, I don't care if it's Terran or Zerg. He will put down the rest before they can even come out of the neural. And just like that, Serral clears the field. Oh no, it's an absolute disaster for the People's Terran. As the predictable yet inevitable turnaround. Serral's infestor control again, perfectly on point. And it seems like Serral strikes back. It's not over, not by any means, as attacking into an entrenched position is significantly more difficult than grabbing an army on the open field. Not to take away from the decisive victory Serral was able to pick up there, but being able to get something of a surround, or at least engage all the units without having to contend with a base or supply depots or all that getting in the way. But perfectly timed and executed. The Zerglings, the supply depot left open. Kira's coming back. He needs ghosts. Very simply. You need to be able to EMP those infestors. Until he gets them, he's essentially banking on neural scanning and killing the infestors before they get close, which is just not a reliable method of doing business. Still a very dangerous army for Kira. His bank is exhausted, but that is 3-3 mech, fully upgraded siege tanks, and of course Hell Chads as well. Scan the spot. Any infestors trying to close in, underhanded or above ground. 8 Broodlords in production as Serral has reached the next stage. He's actually managed to take one of the only times I've ever seen anyone not only finish a base there, but actually able to mine from it. So Serral going to take the gold on altitude. A very rare sight. Kira seems committed to a ghostless mech style, which, laudable. He's got how many? He's got 23 siege tanks. The Broodlords will be spotted here, but the Queens are underneath. The Banshee's taken down. Thors and Vikings on the way. That is, those siege tanks are going to be worse than useless against the Broodlords. The Broodlings will draw fire onto his own army, and now Kira is caught in the awkward scenario of having to avoid the Broodlords, which are, you know, not the most graceful or agile creatures, but at the same time, not where he wants to be. Transfuse underneath, using the creep as a springboard here, but you can see on the mini-map right now where Kira is splitting his forces and trying to go around both sides. As he knows he can't fight the army at the front, he just backs off the infestors, understanding the Broodlords are on the way. The Queens, Brenda, forward. In retreat, you know what, Susan, stop stepping on my toes. Oh my god, I just got my nails done. What, you have nails? Oh, the Vikings try to chase down the Broods, but the most inevitable, he drops down, which doesn't really solve the fungal problem, but at least lets them die more dramatically. I get Kira really struggling with those infestors. They're able to just dismantle even the strongest of Terran units, and also Vikings. Ultraless Cavern on the way, as Serral gets closer and closer to recreating the Heart of the Swarm cinematic. It feels like Serral is back in command in this game. A shaky game 1, where Serral couldn't find his footing. But now he swept Kira's out from under him. The Broodlords grinding their way through, keeping them away from the Thors, which can pound their way into the Broods pretty easily here, and will do so. Serral losing a couple. More Broodlords on the way. Serral is mining comfortably at the gold base right now, though that economic advantage has dissipated somewhat. Corrosive Bow thrown up, comes down, hitting a siege tank or two, but the Queens, which have kept the Broodlords intact for most of this time. It's the Infestors and the Vipers that are required to help dismantle the army. He needs the Blinding Clouds He needs the, well, abducts into neural parasite could be something. The old kidnap and convert strategy here. Bit of a Stockholm syndrome, but I think that's a little bit to the, what is it? The west of Serral? That's a Scandinavia joke. You know what's not a joke, though? The danger these infestors pose to any army without ghosts. Once again, I gotta compliment Kira on limit testing how far he can get without them. And right now, Serral still has a lot. Make no mistake. War is coming. In all its glory. And no, not that. That's the wrong script. This Terran army is very capable of killing Serral's army. As long as the infestors and vipers don't play a major role. There's a reason. They're force multipliers. But even 1 or 2 Neurals is not going to be enough. 1 Blinding Cloud won't do it. The Thor A-move army, any Zerg, in Platinum or below, but mostly Platinum statistically, will tell you, is incredibly dangerous and very hard to dismantle. Right now, roast 12 drones. Cure still maxed. Serral continues counterattacking with enough Zerglings to deny money on some of these bases. More Ravagers on the way. Not an agile army at all. But as he lumbers around, trying to carve out Serral's bases, Serral continues to build up. He's waiting, brooding. He's got +3 flyer attack, which applies to the initial strike of the Brood Lords when they slap those Broodlings into whatever gets close. The Broodlings themselves benefit from melee attack and Carapace upgrades, but are not the majority of the damage, really. Mostly there to make it harder for the army to move, draw siege tank fire, and be a general nuisance. Hellions find some more, but that just frees up more supply for Serral's massive army now. He's got money in the bank. Cure has mustered his forces yet again. Still, no Ghost Academy whatsoever. He has 10 Thors, 14 siege tanks, 4 Vikings, and a dozen Hellbats. That is a lot of mech. But Serral's army is worth 2,200 gas and a few hundred minerals more. Those infestors and vipers, as well as, of course, the Brood Lords themselves. How do you deal with the neural parasite? Well, he's blasting his way through, but Serral getting his own damage. The Ravagers looking for an opportunity. Enough mech left at home. Few Hellbats, just little expeditionary forces here. Trying to divide and conquer, not something you usually do with mech armies. But here we are. Without enough Roaches and Ravagers, yeah, another base. Cure. Now, part of this is just trying to catch Serral out of position. A Ravager is definitely more maneuverable. Serral is expanding to what I think is almost certainly Cure's side of the map. But the Ravagers are making things very difficult for anything but the main army. Vikings on deck, throws up the corrosive biles, knocks out the Vikings. Banelings take down more. And Cure, he's had enough. He moves forward. Neural Parasite on 1 Thor. Siege tanks not in range. Blinding Cloud. Wombo combo. Here come the Broods. The Blinding Cloud and Thor can't help, but he's still bashing through the tanks. This, it feels like Cure has given up to the goat here. The Brood Lords will rain down. The Vikings, pale in comparison. Cure down 130, so devastated in that fight. Overall, actually taking out... Well, Cure took out a Thor and 3 siege tanks, I think, with his own units. Serral, though, takes out... Wait. Okay. So, it counted Cure's kills with his neural parasited Thor as kills towards his army. So that is why it looks almost even then. But the Brood Lords will not be stopped. Not by this army, not by the next one. Not at this rate. I don't know where the light is at the end of the tunnel. I don't know how Cure expects the next fight to go any better than the previous ones. But he's gonna give it a shot. More Vikings, more Thors, more Hellions. But without the ghosts. It appears, much like their very own independent games, they've been canceled. Cure. Serral has played a patient but inevitable game. I say, like, if you make a mistake, if you engage at a poor timing or from the wrong angle here, this army can be tough to beat, the one that Cure's built. Serral just simply has not made that mistake. Not even, honestly, it feels like he hasn't even made a small one. Those Brood Lords have always been at the right place to engage the main army. He's given up bases in favor. He's given up battles to win the war. And now there's one more line to break. But the Brood Lords are working on it. The Infestors are scanned. But the Queens are in place for transfuse. The creep has spread all the way to the other side. He gets one of the Broods. Backs off with one Viper. Keeps it together. The Broodlings themselves raining down. The Swarm. Overwhelming here. And the Lord of the Broods. Looking unchallenged. He's got 16 Brood Lords, 9 Infestors underneath. Zerglings grinded through. Here. It ain't happening. Well, here we go. The Broodlings just melting through the siege tank friendly fire, doing as much. And that's the danger, and that's why Brood Lords are such a great counter to the siege tanks. So it's the siege tanks of the sky. Not just because of their range, but because of the friendly fire they drag in. The Infestors underneath. Impossible to target. Blinding Cloud. Neural Parasite. Targets the tanks down. Can get the Vikings. And Serral with a decisive, overwhelming, and absolutely comprehensive victory in Game 2. Making Game 1 look like a fluke. That does not bode well for the Korean Terran. That was a decisive victory. Okay, Cure brought out a new unit composition. He got the initiative, but it felt like he didn't really capitalize on the situation. He didn't know exactly what he wanted to do with it when he got that map control. Ended up losing so many Hellbats, and then his late-game army was not an end-game army. And Serral knew exactly how to dismantle it. Well. Game 3, Babylon. I think this one will certainly set the tone. Cure's had a solid, almost commanding... I think it was a commanding victory. Serral has had a decisive one. Where Cure clearly was not interested in going ghost in the late game. Well... we'll see if that trend continues. I doubt we're going to see either the Proxy Reaper, maybe the Proxy Reaper, but not the mech build again. He's now put that on the table as something he may use. Just keeping Serral honest. Though I don't think Serral's going to take too many. He wasn't cutting many corners as it was. So, well-rounded gameplay. Well, then again, I think cutting corners is how you make something that's round. Because circles don't have corners. Source, just trust me, bro, but doesn't need to make sense. You know what I'm saying? There are no corners to cut because he's so well-rounded. There. That's the phrasing we were looking for. And here we are. Ooh. Tough act to follow on that one. It's going to be a command center first. From Cure here. One Marade into what looks to be reactored Hellion. Serral not doing any sort of silly cheese or... Oh, and he's got a third hatch. Zergling speed on the way, not too early, but definitely not late. Middle of the road. Nearly aggressively standard. But not aggressive. Just metaphorically. I would say these are the two best template players for their races. For Zerg and for Terran. Now, for Terran, you have players like Maru and Beyond, who rely so much on their micro, almost despite their strategies. Whereas Cure is like this Marauder here. Even that last style, it didn't hold up to Serral's Viper Infestor control, but that's definitely something you can take to the ladder and almost certainly find success. As his mechanically oriented and mech builds are very much something that is relatively easy to replicate for maybe not your average, but your accomplished player who knows what they're looking for. Same with Serral. Like, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what he does, but he's not reliant on crazy mind games or pinpoint timings, but just a general target and timing for dealing with his opponent. Like you saw there where he went Baneling speed with 62 drones. At the timing, you would usually deal with a Marine drop, right around that 6.5 minute mark. So, even though it wasn't the ideal counter to what Gear was doing, he was able to adapt it and find success. Because it's just such a strong baseline. Well, it's going to be a knee breaker build, though. We'll see if Serral's baseline is strong enough to deal with the concussive Marauders combined with Hellbats here to drop. The intent being to drop on the Queens, break their many knees, and then burn them alive until they're no longer alive with the Hellbats. Viking loses it to the Queen. I don't know if it got an overload kill or not, but either way, loses that opportunity for a distraction. And the Viking itself, the Hellions are ready to go. Where's the medevac with the Marauders chauffeuring it? Or the other way around. Cloak Banshee on the way behind. Kier does not have a third command center. He must get something done here. Here come the Hellions. Drops out the Marauders. Breaks one of the Queen's legs. More down there. Transfuse looking okay for now. Gets one of the Queens. No Hellbats yet. There we go. That medevac looking mighty vulnerable right now, but not actually being targeted. As Serral tries to deal with this is a very strong attack. Hellbats working on the Zerglings here. Surprising that Serral hasn't even gone for the medevac at all. Trying to target down to individual Hellbats, slowly working his way through them. The Queens trying to micro back. More Hellions driving their way across. I guess Serral with enough Queens. He's actually built more drones behind this. He's up to 64. And they'll expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. Leaves one of the Hellions behind. Trying to pick up the Marauders, but a full retreat as Serral's monarchy is able to drive back everything it's challenging. So here's the thing. I want to point out, Serral did not target the medevac. He realized, well, it was definitely a choice not to do so. His Queens were in range. A lot of players will target the medevac, and if you kill it, it's great. But if you waste any time targeting the medevac and either don't kill it or leave your Queens in a vulnerable position against the Hellbats, well, that's when the damage really starts to add up. So Serral actually just targeted down Hellbats with each flank of his Queens there and made that attack, well, just kind of picked it apart. He dismantled it. One Hellbat at a time. And it looked for a second like Kier was in trouble. But those seconds passed rather quickly. And now here we go again. The double cloak Banshee. Lair not even quite done yet. Banshee's will have to be dealt with, but the main brunt of the attack is burning its way across the countryside, as well as the alternative fourth. I don't really think of it as a 5th base, but an alternative 4th base is usually more accurate. But the Zerglings will deny a 3rd command center location. Cure able to start another one. So many Zerglings at the door here. I don't think he's going to be able to break through. Pulls back. But denying the 3rd, well, he has 71 drones and 4 bases. It's still going to be a pretty big win for Serral. Banshee's getting to work on the queens. Well, the one queen over here. Micros his way through. Doesn't quite kill the queen. The save from the transfuse. And now what? Lings and Banes. +2/+2 on the way. Serral in his comfort zone right now. Cure is on tenuous footing. He tried the Hellbat timing. Not quite it. Again, I don't mind the idea. I don't mind going for... Look at that vanguard of creep tumors there. Even though he's using a bunch of them, he's got the full spread across the board. 2 at the front. Did you know 2 creep tumors spread almost twice as fast as 1? But the benefit ends at 2. You don't get like an exponential bonus for 10. I don't know why 2 is the limit. Or it works at all, but it definitely does. They will spread faster if you put 2 relatively. They don't have to be touching, but it's like, you know, within spitting distance. Now think about that and the implications of spitting distance for creep tumors. Very uncomfortable. Hydra Den, Overlord speed. It's not a good sign when the Zerg production tab is longer than the Terrans in the mid-game. We got Burrow on the way, but the Zerglings engage. They intercept this army on the field, and the Banelings are rolling through. Cure is crushed. The army's starting to thin out, but Cure also running out of options. A siege tank saved at the last second. But the Banelings are continuing to roll through. Finally has to retreat up to the high ground. But more Lings and Banes on their way across. And this is before. He didn't even wait for 2-2. He knew he had the timing. He knew he had the opportunity. And he captured it. And with it, the Hive is on the way. The gateway to so much more. The Hydra Den's already done. 6 Dropper Lords on the way. Lurkers are on the table. Adrenal Glands. Ultraless Cavern. This feels like an Ultra game. Assuming we get that far, as Serral has 170 to 140 supply. He's got 2-2 done. There's no reason to really hesitate at this point. Unless this Banshee's annoying you too much. A queen comes by. Burrow done now. Marines trying to clear the creep. Not gonna happen. A Zergling guards it. Or Zerglings. Many more than one. Adrenal Glands on the way. Hydraless speed. And a Ling drop. As Serral. Scouting medevac trying to see where all the units went. But a Doom drop for the first time in the series will be executed not by our Terran, but by the finisher. Cure with nothing in the main. Not even a Nidus. No, he unloads everything. Adrenal Glands isn't done. But 2-2 is. The Zerglings have an upgrade advantage over the Marines, but without any Banelings. It's going to be hard to deal with. He drags the army back in. And the rest chases down the siege tanks in the middle of the field. You see Serral just dismantling the defenses right now, setting himself up for a follow-up attack. And if that's not an opportunity, well, then the Vipers are on the way. Adrenal Glands about to finish. He burrowed some of the Zerglings all over the main. They're still inside the house. Oh, there's enough Marines here. I don't know if he knows about... He definitely knows about the Broodlings. He saw it happen. Gonna clear up some of them. But not all. Looking for a corner here. Manages to burrow a few more. A second scan for 2 Zerglings. And he didn't catch them all. The least favorite Pokemon game here. Every Zergling you miss is a dead SCV. Very likely at this stage. But Cure has survived to 186 supply. He may even see a max out. He'll get maybe 1 fight before the full Hive tech is online. +3 Carapace, Vipers. There's not much else right now. But the Vipers themselves are definitely... Well, this will be the first reveal. He scans, he spots them. And this is when we reveal whether or not Cure still has the Ghost Academy hotkey bound. Because if there was ever a time for ghosts, it would be now. Well, it would be last game, very clearly. But in this game. Kira, what are you doing? The Viper, it's not going to get easier. Siege tanks a +2. Yanking in the tanks here. Blinding Cloud hits 2 of them. Rolls through with the Banes. Covered by the Blinding Cloud. And just crushes the ground army. Serral sweeps it from the field. As he continues to expand. There is the Ghost Academy. But is it too little? And is it too late? Let's go to our reporter on the ground, Kate Lockwell. Kate? Yeah, you're super dead. I know. And, I'm sorry, Kate. This game could go either way. Cure still with 3-3 in the Terran army, bravely standing against the Zerg. The Zerglings pop up, and meanwhile, Serral pops up the Zerglings as he chases down the army on the field. Cure has to look back to his base, and the moment he does, Serral jumps the army. The Vipers have refilled for another round. He's not even bothering a parasitic bomb. Blinding Cloud on the tanks. Yanks another one into the fray. Will take it out. Banelings rolling in. Another tank brought in. And the Hydra's Lings and Banes. He realizes he might just have enough. But Serral, ever the careful player. 94 more Zerglings on the way. Gonna refill that army. 7 Corruptors. There are Vipers now. Still no Ghosts in production. Though, Ghosts not the answer against pure Hydra Ling Bane. Something to help deal with the Vipers. Serral, though, may have reached that critical mass. He just has so many bases, so much money, so much income. Zerglings overrunning. Cure is holding. But now 7, I didn't even notice he got a Greater Spire. But Serral's very aware of it. As the siege tank count grows, it gets more and more difficult to break with pure Ling Bane. But the Broodlords could be the finisher. +3 melee attack about to complete. Ghosts are being built by Cure. But get over it. Wait, for who though? He grabs one of the medevacs. Serral not wasting energy on Parasitic Bomb. Liberator sieged up. Snipes. Gets one. Gets another. Knocks the Vipers out of the sky. But the Broodlords still. Viking unchallenged, actually. Might kill a Broodlord there. Convenient. Abducts a Viking. But Serral, now that the Ghosts are on the field, has to be a little more careful about overextending. Of course, he extends far enough to obliterate that planetary. Cure's army supply is still dangerous. He's sitting at 100. Actually, 110. He has a bit of a supply lead. The Banelings rolling in. Ghost not too vulnerable to him, but it will interrupt any snipes he tries to execute on the Broods. Serral refilling, but Cure gaining some ground. Ghost Cloak is done. There is plenty of detection here with the army, but lines up the snipes. Knocks out one Brood. Another one bruised. But the Zerglings are chasing down the Ghosts. The Ling Bane again comes in. And again, the Terran army has to retreat. Serral pulls back. Gross still being tired. There's just so much. He's got 100 Zerglings in production. And he still has larvae. How does he still have larvae? The mechanics are insane. to have larva after using 50 larva on Zerglings. And then some. To still have 20 left over. He has 7 hatcheries right now. The Hydras, the Lings, the Banes. They're all too damn much. Serral, again, overwhelming. And goes up 2-1. You're not able to put the army together in time. The Hellbat push looked good, but not nearly, remotely good enough. Serral is in form now. And that is something essentially, effectively, and historically near impossible to stop. I wish I could say there was some hope there for Cure. I wish I could say that Cure, well, it was a tough one, but if he just adjusts a few things, he could turn it around. But the freight train is on the tracks. I don't think Cure can get out of the way in time. I hope I'm wrong. But I fear I'm right. Gresman. Game 4. Serral, 2-1. Cure, what do you got? He's tried 3 different builds, 3 different strategies to diminishing returns. And now he'll return to something a bit more standard, it looks like. No command center first. Just a 1-Rax expand so far. With a Reaper. So unlikely to be some crazy mech follow-up. Well, that doesn't rule it out at all, to be clear. That's still on the table. We are on Gresvan as well. Our most macro and late game oriented map. Not altitude, despite how long the game we had. Rarely do we see altitude at all. It usually doesn't make it through the pick man process. But in a best of 7, everything's on the table, so. Third base should be on the way. Serral's not going to change it up without provocation. Queen manages to inject in the air. Never quite seen that animation before. Just built different. Third command center on the way, but the Zerglings slipped by and could potentially delay. Well, definitely will delay, but probably not kill the SCV here. The Reaper will delay Serral's 3rd hatchery as well. Maybe even... No, it doesn't get close enough to kill the drone. Almost loses the Reaper. So both players getting expansions delayed slightly. I think all right. And this is a gasless build, by the way, for Serral. I didn't even get the extractor until now. Surprisingly late 3rd base for that. But that drone count, going to be quite healthy. I've got the starport. This might be the opportunity. Do we see battle cruiser again? Medevac on the way. Medevac almost always... There's no reason to build a medevac if you're not going to be aggressive. The medevac is... for aggressive purposes. As otherwise, you'd be much better off with a Viking, a Liberator, Banshee, literally any other unit. But the medevac is just for supporting. In this case, it's building a Cyclone. So the Ghetto Viking build. It's essentially a Viking, but can still counter Rocho. is what it seems to come down to. We've seen Maru do this a few times. I'm interested to see how it's going to pan out. Overlord's wandering in. Layer on the way. Relatively quick here for Serral. kind of working his way. We'll see if this is the mass speed roach build. I think he's scouting to determine whether it's going to be. Overlord was taken down by the Marines. Could very well actually aspire for Mortars. That's my prediction now. I mean, just Baneling speed, I guess, is the boring version. He does only have 3 gas, so that's not super overwhelming. There's only a bunch of Marines and a medevac here. It feels like this is Cure again trying to kind of mix it up in order to throw Serral off guard. But Serral just, much like a freight train, ignores most things on the tracks. Just kind of going about his business. He's got 62 drones and counting. He's scouted that he doesn't have to worry about too early of a stim timing, as the medevac early actually makes it clear there's not going to be a big stim timing too early on, because he's already sending just his first few units out and then building up infrastructure after that. So that means Serral has time to get not a 4th, but 2 4th bases. I guess technically a 5th in this case. As well as a Spire in production and Baneling speed. So Serral will be going with the Mutiling Bling. We'll see if Cure can put on enough pressure to slow it down, because the lair off that gasless, the key part here is with the gasless build, you're able to get so many drones early and then shift heavily in a very classical Zerg style to the gas production, because he already had enough economy as a baseline, more than you usually get with the quicker speed. And now Serral's sitting on 73 drones with 5 bases, a Spire nearly done, and Baneling speed finishing up at less than 7 minutes. So yeah, wow. Cure has actually built literally at sandbag depots. You love to see it. Let's see if it helps. Been seeing a trend of Terran players not hardwalling off, but just trying to funnel, which the wall meta develops further. Well, a whole bunch of Zerglings, though. Easily enough. Problem is, if you leave the door open, not much of this matters. Serral, at the moment he's most vulnerable, drags the army back home, which will free up space for his mutas to get damage done before Cure is able to counterattack, and lets him know the counterattack is coming. Serral he's pulling his strings right now, it feels like. Those mutas are going to come in. Cure is going to be forced into a semi-base trade scenario, as he doesn't even have turrets. He had enough Marines here in order to deal with it, but Serral has Baneling speed done, so he can fight this army head-on. Here come the Queens. In order to absorb some damage, may throw a few transfuses in, indicating he probably wants to save this base if possible. The mutas are on their way back. He will give it up if he needs to. That's why he took the other base as well. But the Queens tanking some of the damage from the tanks. The mutas in position to help out, looking to intercept or cut off anything here. The Banelings roll by the tanks, minimizing the potential damage. And actually Cure handling himself well here. Still dangerous, but more rounds of Lings and Banes coming in, bringing the Marines across the map. The mutas, not enough, and Cure stands his ground just tall enough in order to work his way through in the Terran army. Able to work through the hatchery. He gets it. Cure, on the precipice of destruction, keeps his balance, and the mutas are unable to push him over the edge. Serral only doing superficial damage to the economy right now, and isn't able to crush that army in a way he anticipated. So, Cure holding on with 2-2 on the way. He's going to have an upgrade advantage. The People's Terran strikes back. No, the tech lab has spotted their upgrading, so he's going to know that's very likely drilling claws here. Nothing else makes any sense. No, Cure doesn't actually have any Widow Mines at the moment. In fact, we haven't seen any this entire series. Quite surprising. A unit that Cure has built some of his career off. His GSL championship in many of his matches may come in handy yet again. the muta count. 16 of them. Infestation Pit, nowhere to be seen here for Serral. As he gets his 2-2 and +2 flyer attack as well. Investing heavily into the mutas. There is a chance he gets bogged down at Lair Tech, while Cure works towards 3-3, which is the classic disparity, the dichotomy between Mutiling Bane and the more efficient Terran army. The Zerg can easily overrun small parts of the army, has a lot more mobility, clearly. But eventually the Terran army gets so strong that it becomes very difficult for even 200 supply of Zerg to fight it. So you're reliant on sending waves of units in to maximize damage. We'll see if Serral actually techs up in time to deal with it. As now Cure has Widow Mines being added in. The exponential potential of this army is growing. A few good Widow Mine hits. Even Serral's been known to eat them in the past. Working around the edges here. Cure also has to be careful not to wait too long. The Thor dropped in for close air support, or anti-air support, I guess more accurately. The Doom drops out of Serral yet again. Setting himself up. Oh my god, he's gonna support his mutas with Zergling drops. How sick is that? But Cure has such a strong army. Well, he could have supported his mutas with Zergling drops. That is one way to kind of make a beachhead here for Operation Overlord. So trying to find an angle to engage. The Zerglings will pop out. One Overlord does go down. The Marines in position. They were here to help defend the mutas. And they'll be just as good against the Zerglings. If not better. Is there Burrow? No. Yes. Sorry. But with that many turrets, there is detection as well. So Cure showing some real fight here. I'm excited to see it. We've seen Cure crumble in series like this before, and he's not doing it now. This is very much anyone's game. In fact, if it wasn't literally this singular player on the other side, I'd say Cure has the edge here. But does anyone ever against Serral? Oh. But he has 3-3 on the way, significantly quicker than Serral. Serral is still stuck with a lot of his supply invested in Mutalisks. He doesn't have that much gas in the bank, and Cure has an army that can easily beat Serral's in a straight-up fight, which is why I don't think Serral's ever going to give it to him. Overseer goes down, and without it, Widow Mines become a much more meaningful danger. Oh, the Banelings are rolling in. Knock out some of the turrets. He had them already queued up. Losing a few SCVs, not the end of the world here. There's still detection from the secondary turret at the back. But the mutas looking for an opportunity. We'll try to engage the army, but there's just not enough here. Banelings rolling in. Widowmine, though, drives him back. Doesn't actually get a shot off, but wards him away for long enough. Oh, that Widowmine could easily... It actually ends up hitting the Banes. Serral refills immediately. 21 more Banelings, but this hatchery at 6 o'clock goes down again. Mutas to the north. Going to try to take advantage of the small gap in the defenses. Breaks through the turrets. The Banelings did the work earlier, softened it up, and now the Orbital is going to go down along with the rest of the SCVs here. Cure works his way forward. Thor's leading the charge. The Marauders trying to absorb as many Baneling hits as possible. 3-3 Marines on the back line. +2 armor Thors as well. Still intact, but badly bruised as Serral refills for another round. The Mutas still shut down for the most part. They killed the Orbital, but Cure still has more mining. They could continue to be an increasing thorn in his side, but Cure is making a lot of progress here. Serral doesn't have that much money in the bank, but Lurkers are on the way. I take it back. These Mutas have +2, +1. They aren't pushovers. They're definitely able to fight the Marines. It isn't a defenseless. They aren't a nuisance. They are at least an annoyance, if not a moderate threat. I'm upgrading them to condition purple. which is way worse than conditioned cerulean, I might add. Okay, which is where we were before, clearly, obviously. Everyone, read a book. 3-3 finishing for Serral, who's realizing that this Unicon, the mutas are good, but they might not be the game enders. The lurkers, on the other hand, a real threat. But Ghost's already on the way. Cure has come around. Ghost's always a good addition in the late game, though not always necessary. But good to have them and not need them, than need them and not have them. I think this series has already shown enough of that. High-sec auto-tracking, Widow Mines, and Ghosts on the way, evoking strong feelings from me. As well as high-sec auto-tracking. And more turrets. Kira really embracing that late game. More command centers. Thors are here. The Widowmine spread is great. The Marauders are gonna stim in again. The Muta's still going to work. But the snipes line them up and knock them out of the sky. Several Mutas going down, but Serral is trying to transition his supply into a more ground counter army. Not fighting with Mutas, except when he desperately needs to. The lurkers on the high ground, don't ask how they do that, but they're able to shoot to the low. A huge round of banelings looking to smash a planetary on the left flank. Kira is holding position in Siege Tank Canyon here. But Serral, still mining comfortably enough. Does have a significant income lead, and if the banelings have their way, going to widen it. Coming in again. Widow Mines. Not gonna do it. Actually ends up killing him anyways, as well as some of the SCVs. This should put a little bit more pep in Kira's step here. But, well, the hand is going to be forced either way. Serral tries to come in. Lingbane not making enough progress here. More Zerglings. Kira starting to crumble back at home. Serral is trying to force the fight into lurkers, which is always a devastating proposition. Especially for Terran. His ghosts are not here to deal with it. The ghosts actually are amazing against Zerglings. What am I saying? Haven't you seen a cinematic? Except they don't run out of ammo here, so... Well, the Widow Mine's dealt with, but an annoyance. And again, for I believe the third time, Kira will take out this hatchery. Yep, third hatchery of the game. Same location every time. Banelings rolling in. A planetary. Does he have building armor? Doesn't matter. No, he doesn't, though. Might want to invest. Widowmine dealt with. Here, playing a patient game. I mean, he keeps losing bases, but bases are cheap compared to this army. A Widowmine spread on creep here, not even scanning to deal with it, which is quite a risky proposition. He has 5 orbitals, now scanning, as the lurkers get close, lines up some snipes, but banelings coming in. More lings and banes from the north, but a Widowmine deals with that. And Serral, unable to drive back the army with the initial wave of lurkers, loses the hatchery to the north. Cure is going for the heart of the swarm right now. But the banelings melting through some of the ghosts. Gets 2 or 3 more, but replaces them. The supply dipping dramatically here. As Zerglings either unburrow or run by. I'm not sure which one, but it doesn't really matter in the end. More drones going to be taken out. 2 bases. Almost got a third in all this, but driven back just in time. Lurker's going to look to jump the army on the retreat. And the ghost... not really in position to deal with it. A whole lot of Zerglings, but without the banelings, gonna have trouble. Looking to pick up here is Kira quite clearly. The ghost stutter stepping back, still fighting. Doesn't want to just give up entirely and pick up, but he finally does so. Widow Mines, gotta burrow him, gets the drilling claws. And looking good so far. Kira holding on. Serral unable to find that decisive engagement. It's now Serral, I think, is the player who wants to fight heads up with the army. As time goes on, Cure is going to be able to win a war of attrition. This is the war of attrition army. He's got the ghosts. He's got the widow mines. All we're missing are some liberators to help zone out. Maybe help deal with drones as well. Scans continue. There's only 5 orbitals. There's the liberators in production. Mules will drop to try to equal out the income. And indeed, Cure has drawn even economically. He's closed the gap here. Take it out. A bunch of drones and a couple bases will do that. Oh. Baneling mines. Killed. Oh, it's impossible to tell. The battle's gone on for so long. But Cure's supply only dipped by 6, so maximum of 6. Well, parasitic bomb quarantined. Ghost, good spread. He sniped off a bunch of lurkers, but the Ling Bane is rolling through. Widow mines take out a massive chunk. Ghost still retreating out to a corner on their own, but he actually loses detection. Cure, though, losing a whole lot of supply. Many of his medevacs here. God, this battle has been so extensive. There's been 5 minutes without a real gap in the action, even if it's just a few Zerglings running by. An orbital just goes down. But Cure rebuilding. Serral doesn't have that much money in the bank, but concerning is his gas. 2,800. And counting, of course. As Cure has now lost several mining bases. He doesn't have a huge amount of command centers with which to replace them, and Serral is starting to expand everywhere else. Cure looked like he gained a lot of ground there, but he may have just evened things up. Where are the medevacs? He only has 2 of them. They just popped out and the infestors have joined the field, though Cure's widow mines. Well, that infestor lived a surprising amount of time. I'm going to try to chase it down. We'll get it. Widow mines find even more. Yanks out the liberators. Dismantles that position. Widow mines blunt the force of this attack, but Serral will still beat his way through. Hydra, Ling Bane, and Serral just refilling the army before Cure can do anything of the sort. 11 more SCVs. A burrowed Zergling blocks the 3rd. Zerglings running by. SCV's already softened up. Cure drops under 50. Missile attacks, level 3. Hydra is now fully upgraded, along with... Are there still... The lurkers? Dead and gone. It has been quite a while since we've seen them. Throws the Widow Mine, shots out. More Widow Mines connect, but Serral, it appears the scales have been tipped. 199 to 119. Cure just cannot keep up. He's played a careful, he's played a pragmatic, and he's played a well-executed game. There's a reason he's in this finals. But there's a reason that Serral looks like he's going to 3-1. Match point. GG! Cure is defeated. A great game, honestly. A very solid game out of Cure. But Serral just... He is not shaken. He is not stirred. But he is inevitable. It really feels like it. Just so much at all times. A few moments where Cure maybe had the opportunity to break through, but Serral easily closed the gap and overran him. So match point for the finisher in this Masters Coliseum, the grandest of Masters. Not surprising to see Serral at the finish line here. But Cure, he's not done yet. The only thing that remains to be asked is 1, have you liked and subscribed? 2, not really an ask, but thank you for watching this far into the series. I hope you've enjoyed the commentary. And 3, is there going to be 1, 2, or none barracks out on the map? I guess 3 as well. The game has begun. Jimmy! None. This time around. One more time, in the top left of Neo Humanity. The People's Terran. It is Cure. But, on the other side, the greatest StarCraft 2 player. of all time, going through Maru. And, no, I assume anyone else to get here. Looking like he's going to end up on the podium in first once again. The finisher. Most notably, I assume he didn't find any particularly capable Zergs. As Serral, his greatest weakness has been Zerg itself. Mirror matchups are always volatile. ZVZ no exception. In fact, ZVZ more... Well, Protoss versus Protoss is the most volatile. And then ZVZ. And then TVT. Just statistically overall. Kira, why is your command center off? Oh no. Like, is there a Zergling there? No. Let's try to pretend there's some strategy to it. That is off, right? Yeah, that's definitely off. That's not a good sign. We're going into potentially the final match. Just fat finger in the command center. Put the controller down, Cure. Reaper on the way across. Oh no. Serral forcing the issue. He's going to go... Why is there a Zergling? Oh, it just walked in. He gets a Zergling in. Serral gonna take the rich Vespine base in the center. Which is almost always a bait, I feel. Like, it's something, either you try to respond to it early, I deal with that, I'm in great shape, or you don't respond to it, and I have plenty of extra gas. It's not that it gives you more gas overall, but being able to mine the same amount as 2 gas geysers with only 1 is, of course, a nice boost early on. That could potentially translate into a decent advantage. I gotta say, though, I gotta, as I zone out, Cure has deserved his place in the finals. Also in the finals of Gamers 8 against Raynor. Just one of the most consistent, hardworking players. I mean, he said it before. I will bring up that one interview from GSL when after he beat Solar and Dark, he was asked in the winner's interview, Solar and Dark, they're considered to be some of the top Zergs, arguably better players than you. How did you beat them? And he responded in very, very Terran fashion of, well, Terran players work hard, and I worked hard, and Zerg players are usually lazy, so I think that factored in. Like, and here, Cure definitely putting the work in. Clearly, mechanically an incredible player, but Serral just has that extra edge. And, oh god. No, you gotta get through there. The bone trench is about to drop on his head. Cure! The rock, like, you gotta Indiana Jones this one. Here he comes out with a bit of a bare bones army. Honestly, Queens might be enough to deal with this. Zerglings are just icing on the cake. The medevac! Medevac, very important. But Serral not shying away from just targeting down units. He's about to have energy for transfuse. That's another part of it. I think Serral doesn't build as many creep tumors, so he always has a little bit of extra energy for transfuse. Usually not a difference maker, but it's very intentional. If something seems smart and calculated, just assume it's intentional with Serral. These little details. Nothing is more boring than talking about queen mechanics. Alright. Well, there are some things. Larva mechanics. But that's tied into queen mechanics. And anyways, well, this is going on, but Zerglings are knocking on the door. Thankfully, the wall-off is complete. The medevac goes down, but Cure is able to get some damage done. The Roach is in a tough spot. Gets one more. 4 drones down. But Serral does already have the rich Vespine third. Cure has not even landed his... Did he move his command center to the right? He did. He moved it back. He was the right spot. The Banshee now working... Okay. Now it's Cure's turn to work on the rocks here. We'll drop them down. Team effort. An unlikely alliance. Very lore accurate here. We all hit the bone trench. Two SCVs down to Zerglings. It's going to be roaches here on Neo-Humanity. Infestation pit on the way as well. And Serral looking to bring the hammer down. Mass roach into Viper. A very direct but potentially deadly composition. And seems to be very popular on this map as well. Easy enough to deny a fourth base, very importantly. And the third base is relatively open and for an attack here. So it becomes very difficult to defend without enough supply. The Changeling gets in, and Cure, everything will be spotted. He knows exactly the timings here. Serral, that is, of course. Road speed is done. Spire on the way. Is he rushing Broodlords? Hive. Wow. 7-minute hive. Double drop trying to come in. Roaches. In position to intercept. Combat shield not even done. This ain't happening. 2-2 already on the way. Kira going to have potentially an upgrade advantage. The Queen's in place to deal with it. Are off a creep. Might, not quite. Gets transfused. Almost thought Serral might make a mistake there. My mistake was the only one made. +1/+1 now done for the roaches on the ground. Serral, will he go straight for broods? Because the conventional wisdom on this map is to get a bunch of siege tanks to deal with roaches. I've never seen anyone sprint to brood lords. But that is quite a next level play, quite literally. As instead of worrying about dealing with the siege tanks, even with Vipers, rushing Broodlords certainly could help with that. Though, Broodlords are relatively fragile, if unprotected. So, we'll see if Kira is able to come up with a counter. A Greater Spire on the way. One of the quickest Greater Spires I've ever seen. A Broodlord rush in general is not really a thing that is done. But it can be moved very tentatively here to the thing category, as it's starting to show signs of it. As Serral here, intentionally circumventing the siege tanks that are so popular here. And indeed, Cure going 2 factory siege tank. He's so ready to deal with this Roach Ravager composition. He's so ready to take the roaches from an entrenched position. Has the Greater Spire been spotted? He's building a couple Vikings, good for zoning out Vipers. I think Serral's selling it, and Cure's buying. He sees the Infestors, he sees the Roach Ravager, but what he doesn't see is, of course, incredibly dangerous. 8 Broodlords, another scan. This one to deal with the creep. Serral show nothing. He has not tilted his hand, except to show exactly the cards that he wanted to. Serral at 203 supply before this final assault. He's gone over, above, and beyond. Oh god. I'm gonna go to the cure cam. He sees the broods! Oh no. What a moment of panic. He's got ghosts on the way. Thors, he cancels the siege tanks for him, but the queens are already here. The 10-minute Broodlord rush. Oh my. 2-2 is done. Now, there's enough siege tanks and marines here to give some pause. He throws down a volley of broodling. The queens holding their ground. The infestors looking for an opportunity. The anti-airs essentially just the queens, but they do have the 2-2 upgrade, so not too bad themselves. Grinding through the siege tanks. And once the tanks are whittled down, the Roach Ravager Infestor should be able to do the rest. Infestor Broodlord is back with a vengeance, targeting down the Vikings with the Queens. The Queens in the late game. Loses one. Oh no. The siege tanks are dead. Cure is at 180 supply though. He has a great army supply. Infestor's EMP'd, but gets a fungal out. The boys are pulled. Thor is here. Goes into high impact mode. Thor pops out right in the front of the Broodlords. A few snipes come through. The last stand of Cure. Well, unless he can make a good one. Corrosive Bile looking good, and Serral is getting beaten back. The Broodlords with just the Roach Ravager, and this is why we don't usually see Broodlords that early, is even with upgraded Roach Ravager, it is usually not until you have that kind of entrenched late game. Until you have a lot of Infestors and Vipers, as they're just not that strong individually. In fact, once the siege tanks died, it freed up Cure to actually fight. The siege tank's doing a lot of friendly fire damage, but now Cure has the army to beat. Roach Ravager baneling on the way. Serral kind of scrambling to get a Hydralisk deck. The Broodlord rush almost broke through, but Cure strikes back. Zerglings trying to slip into the... No! Serral always finds the opportunity. The Marauder stepping over the depot the moment the Zerglings run in. Oh, unfortunate, but not unexpected. Cleans him up, but Serral has successfully bought the time to rebuild his army composition. Tailor it more for what Cure has now. He bought the space there, even though Cure is maxed out. He now has the Ravager Lingbane, still remaxing out himself. But Cure giving him a great fight of it. Zerglings get in again, but this time a siege tank and 2 Marauders bar the gates. Oh, a beautiful fungal, and an air spray there knocks down several of the medevacs. Cure still has 7 to work with. One Infestor takes the wrong path, and will pay for it. SCV looks at its corpse. And Cure playing a great game. Serral on the ropes here. His army actually pales in comparison. Now that Infestors have been taken out, the Roach Ravager whittled down, there's just not that much here. A full spray of Corrosive Bile. All right, like a particularly horrible frat party. The Corrosive Bile is everywhere. And it gets on everything. A lot of damage done there. More Corrosive Biles are grinding their way through, but Cure's economy is actually really solid right now. He has 2-3 mining bases and is producing and rallying across the map. And another round of Banelings is rolling in. The siege tanks want to deal with it, but Corrosive Bile works its way back. Struggles backwards. Overlords themselves vulnerable. Multiple Vikings. Here come some Vipers. You know, gonna be helpful to deal with that. Throws a parasitic bomb with its dying breath. I don't know if Vipers breathe, but if they do, I assume so. For some reason, I believe they have gills. Don't ask why. Air gills. Makes sense. Cure holds on. Well, holds on, really. As in, keeps the high ground here. The base in the front and center. Another benefit of taking it early for Serral is it's mined out already. No longer a location he really needs to defend. But of course, the high ground would be nice to do so. Honestly, this has been a great series. And Cure looks like he's turned it around. These, a couple games, maybe a little one-sided, but Cure putting up a great fight. And right now, well, Serral doing Serral things. Constantly dragging units back. Right when it looks like Cure might be able to get something done, Serral makes him look back home. And that allows him the time to rebuild, to remax, to consolidate his forces, or split them as he sees fit. Tailor a response. SC, the boys murdering a Ravager. That's just so much bio here. Without lurkers, going to be difficult to deal with. But Lingbane breaking through, doesn't even need the Banelings. Heading towards the main. I'm not even sure what he wants to target with those. The Liberators. Hatchery goes down. Banelings rolling. 19 SCVs, 26. He plummets to 66. He'll be fine. Still, there's 6 orbitals here. The ghosts on the field. Looking for more. Parasitic bomb on some of the medevacs. Ling Bane easily overrunning the army on the field. Yanks a tank down and rips it to shreds, I say. Consuming his Roach Warren. Widowmine's on the way. Serral, he keeps working around the edges, getting real damage done to Cure. But Cure has been sitting near 200 supply for quite a while. In fact, he's maintained an army supply lead for a bit here, too. Been very competitive ever since he cleaned up the Broodlords. Now overrunning. Ugh. Zerglings murdering some ghosts. Liberator has a lot of targets here, not a lot of time in which to prevent critical damage. 12 more SCVs down. Cure keeps coming back. Somehow Serral just... These run-bys are just large enough that Cure has to focus most of his effort on them. Serral not really committing most of his army, but 50 Zerglings demand respect. He has adrenal glands done. He's working on +3 melee as well. So those aren't even full. What? Cure didn't have 3... Oh, that's a big mistake. I don't think he lost his engineering base. Oh, that's a big deal. He could have easily started 3-3 a while back. There's no way he didn't have that opportunity. So Cure, the one mistake that may end up costing him those upgrades, an upgrade deficit against the Ling Bane. Not something you want to see. Well, if you're a Terran, of course. Parasitic bombs on the medevacs. They'll be quarantined, sent to die, so they don't take any with... Oh, the Foggles and the Banelings just roll in! And like that, the entire army evaporates. It's a disaster for Cure. Oh no! His supply is completely annihilated. His position on the field is removed, evicted, run down, and murdered. Not even routed because there's nothing left to retreat. And just like that, Serral is your Masters Coliseum champion. Just like that, he turned what was kind of something resembling an even game into a total and utter victory. The finisher comes in with a steel chair of fungal growth and 30 banelings, and he takes it home. 4-1 for Serral, but all credit to Cure. This was one of the best series I've seen from Cure. Cure taking the place as the greatest punching bag in all of StarCraft 2. Yes, a bit of a questionable mech game with no ghosts. A great game one to start things off, and I thought he had a great shot at it. And even though it's a 4-1, I don't think that really tells the story of this series. But hopefully you thought I did well enough. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Jimmy, no! The Patreon list! We forgot all this! We were so excited to cast Serral versus Cure. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I made your day a little bit better. If you got the meanest motivation, it'd be awesome if you could check out Patreon, YouTube membership. And thank you again to the World Team League for putting on so many, not only the World Team League, but so many great events. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Congratulations, Serral. Great effort by Cure. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.
Hail. It's a